I still remember that Sunday morning like it was yesterday. The sun was streaming through the stained glass windows, and Lauren sat beside me, her hand resting gently on my knee. 7 years of marriage, and I still felt lucky. Then the church doors flew open. A woman I had never seen before stormed down the aisle, pointing at my wife, screaming one word that would change everything, homewrecker. I stood up to defend Lauren, convinced this stranger had lost her mind. 4 days later, I discovered the truth. Before I dive deeper into this story, let me know where you are watching from by dropping a comment below. And if you believe that the truth always comes out, eventually hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now, let me tell you how I uncovered 2 years of lies from the woman I loved most in this world. My name is Steven, and when this all started, I was 34 years old, working as a software engineer for a major tech company in the city. I met Lauren at a mutual friends party when I was 27. She had just graduated college and was working as an intern at a marketing firm downtown. From the moment I saw her, I was drawn in. She was smart, funny, ambitious, and she had this way of making everyone around her feel like they were the most important person in the room. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. It was nothing fancy, just a quiet dinner at the restaurant where we had our first date. She said yes before I even finished asking the question. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. A year after that, we bought a house in the suburbs, a 3-bedroom colonial with a big backyard and a white picket fence. It sounds like a cliche, but that is exactly what it was. The American dream, or so I thought. Lauren climbed the ladder quickly at her company. Within 5 years, she went from intern to senior marketing manager. I was proud of her. We both worked hard, saved money, and built what I believed was a solid life together. Every Sunday we went to church. We volunteered at community events. Our neighbors thought we were the perfect couple. I thought we were the perfect couple. Not once in 7 years did I ever suspect that Lauren was capable of lying to me. That was my first mistake. That Sunday started like any other. We woke up early, had coffee together, and drove to church. We always sat in the same pew, 3rd row from the front right side. Pastor David was in the middle of his sermon about forgiveness and loyalty. The irony of that still hits me sometimes. I was listening to him talk about the importance of honesty in relationships when the back doors of the church slammed open. Everyone turned around. A woman stood in the doorway, her hair disheveled, her eyes red and swollen, like she had been crying for hours. She wore jeans and a wrinkled sweater, and she looked like she had not slept in days. For a moment, nobody moved. Then she started walking down the aisle, her eyes locked on our pew. No, not our pew. On Lauren. She stopped about 10 feet away from us and pointed directly at my wife. Her voice cracked as she screamed, "Homewrecker! You destroyed my family. How dare you sit in the house of God after what you did?" The entire congregation went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I looked at Lauren, expecting her to be confused, maybe even laugh at the obvious case of mistaken identity. But instead her face went pale, completely white, like all the blood had drained from her body in an instant. I stood up immediately. "Ma'am, I think you have the wrong person. My wife does not know you." The woman, who I would later learn was named Diane, shook her head violently. "Oh, she knows me, or at least she knows my husband. She has been sleeping with him for 2 years. Lauren stood up beside me, tears already forming in her eyes. "I have no idea who this woman is, Stephen. I swear, she must be confused." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. I turned back to Diane and tried to stay calm. "Look, I do not know what is going on, but you need to leave. You are disrupting the service and upsetting my wife." A few men from the congregation came forward and gently escorted Diane out of the building. She was still screaming accusations as they led her through the doors. Pastor David did his best to restore order, apologizing to everyone and continuing with a shortened version of his sermon. But nobody was really listening anymore. Everyone kept glancing at us, whispering behind their hands. After the service, Lauren and I walked to the car in silence. She was shaking and I put my arm around her, trying to comfort her. Once we were inside the car, I asked her directly, "Lauren, do you have any idea who that woman was?" She shook her head, not meeting my eyes. "No. I have never seen her before in my life. She must have me confused with someone else." I nodded, but something felt off. It was the way she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white. It was the way she would not look at me when she answered. It was the slight tremor in her voice that I had never heard before. That night, Lauren said she had a headache and went to bed early. I sat alone in the living room, replaying the scene in my head over and over again. The look on Diane's face was not confusion. It was certainty. She knew exactly who she was accusing, and the look on Lauren's face was not surprise. It was fear. I tried to push the thoughts away. This was my wife, the woman I had loved for nearly a decade. She would never betray me like that. I was just being paranoid. But as I sat there in the dark staring at nothing, I could not shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. Over the next 2 days, I started paying attention to things I had never noticed before. Or maybe I had noticed them and just chose to ignore them. Lauren was constantly on her phone, but whenever I walked into the room, she would flip it face down or slip it into her pocket. She started talking about having to travel more for work, mentioning conferences and client meetings that seemed to come out of nowhere. I thought back over the past 2 years, all those business trips she took, the nights she said she had to stay at a hotel because a meeting ran late, the times she would step outside to take a phone call saying it was just her boss, the text messages she deleted as soon as she read them. At the time, I never questioned any of it. Why would I? I trusted her completely. One night, about 3 days after the church incident, I woke up around 2 in the morning to use the bathroom. When I came back to bed, I noticed the glow of a phone screen. Lauren was lying on her side, typing rapidly, a small smile on her face. When she saw me, she quickly turned off the screen and shoved the phone under her pillow. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Just a coworker," she said. "Asking about a project deadline. Go back to sleep." I lay there in the dark for hours, unable to sleep. The pieces were starting to come together, and I did not like the picture they were forming. The next morning after Lauren left for work, I sat down at my computer and started searching. I remember Diane's face clearly, and I began looking through Lauren's social media, trying to find any connection. I checked her friends list, her tagged photos, the comments on her posts. Nothing. Then I searched through the church's community group on Facebook. Still nothing. Finally, I tried a different approach. I searched for local news stories, community posts, anything that might help me identify this woman. After about an hour, I found her. A post in a neighborhood group from 6 months ago, something about a lost dog. Diane Thompson, age 38, and right there in her profile listed as her husband was a man named Marcus Thompson. My heart stopped. I clicked on Marcus's profile and saw that he worked at the same company as Lauren. Not just the same company, but the same department. Senior account executive in the marketing division. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through his photos. There he was, tall and handsome, with a confident smile. The kind of guy who probably had women falling over themselves to get his attention. And there, in photo after photo from company events, was my wife standing right next to him. Their body language was too familiar, the way they leaned into each other, the way his hand rested on the small of her back in one picture, the way she looked up at him with a smile I thought she reserved only for me. I closed my laptop and sat there for a long time, feeling like I was going to be sick. But I did not confront her, not yet. I needed proof. I needed to know for certain before I destroyed my entire life over what might still be a misunderstanding. I started checking our joint credit card statements. What I found made my stomach turn. Hotel charges on nights Lauren said she was at conferences. Expensive dinners at restaurants I had never heard of. Charges at stores that sold lingerie and jewelry. Things she never wore around me. I cross-referenced the dates with her company's public event calendar. On most of those nights, there were no company events scheduled at all. The evidence was piling up, but I still needed more. I pulled our phone records and found one number that appeared hundreds of times over the past 2 years. Calls lasting hours. Text messages in the middle of the night. I called our phone provider and asked who the number belonged to. Marcus Thompson. I drove to a parking lot near my office and sat in my car for an hour crying for the first time since my father died 8 years ago. My whole world was falling apart, and the woman who was supposed to be my partner in everything had been lying to me for years. That night I called my best friend Greg. We had been close since college, and he had become a successful divorce attorney. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he gave me the advice that would change everything. "Stephen, I know this is killing you, but you need to be smart about this. Do not confront her yet. Gather more evidence. Document everything. And whatever you do, do not let her know that you suspect anything." I took his advice. The next day I hired a private investigator. It cost me $3,000, but it was worth every penny. Over the next 2 weeks, he followed Lauren and reported back to me with updates that confirmed my worst fears. Lauren and Marcus were meeting at least 3 times a week. They would leave work separately and meet at hotels on the outskirts of town. They had dinner at restaurants an hour away from our house places where nobody would recognize them. The investigator provided photographs and videos. Lauren and Marcus holding hands in a parking garage. Lauren and Marcus kissing in his car. Lauren and Marcus checking into a hotel room together at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday when she told me she had a client presentation. Each piece of evidence felt like a knife in my chest. 2 years. For 2 years she had been living a double life, and I had been too blind to see it. As painful as the photos and videos were, the worst was yet to come. One evening while Lauren was in the shower, I noticed she had left her laptop open on the kitchen table. Her main email was closed, but there was another browser tab open, a secondary email account I had never seen before. I knew I should not look, but I had to know everything. I sat down and started reading. There were hundreds of emails between Lauren and Marcus going back more than 2 years. Love letters, plans for secret getaways, discussions about their future together. Marcus wrote about how he was going to leave Diane so they could finally be together. Lauren wrote back about how she could not wait for that day. But what hurt the most were the things Lauren wrote about me. In one email, she called me the boring nice guy she had settled for. In another, she complained that I was too predictable, too safe, too ordinary. She wrote that being with Marcus made her feel alive in a way I never could. She said she wished she had met Marcus before she met me, that her life would have been so different. I found emails about trips they had taken together, those conferences in Miami, Chicago, and San Francisco that Lauren said were for work. She went with Marcus. They stayed in luxury hotels, ate at expensive restaurants, and charged it all to credit cards I never knew existed. Then I found the email that broke me completely. It was from 8 months ago. Lauren had written to Marcus about their future children. She said she hoped her kids would have his eyes, his smile, his intelligence. She said she wished Marcus was the one she had married, that he was the one who would be the father of her children, not me. I sat there staring at the screen, unable to breathe. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of thinking I knew this woman, and she had been wishing I did not exist the entire time. I closed the laptop and went outside. I stood in my backyard looking up at the stars, and I made a decision. I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to let her walk away from this without consequences. If she wanted to burn down our marriage, fine. But I was going to make sure she felt the flames too. The next day I reached out to Diane. I sent her a message apologizing for what happened at church and asking if we could meet. She agreed immediately. We met at a coffee shop the following afternoon. She looked exhausted, like she had aged 10 years in the past month. She told me her side of the story. She had found text messages on Marcus's phone about 6 months ago. She followed him one day and saw him meet Lauren at a hotel. She tried to save her marriage, went to counseling, begged Marcus to end the affair. But he refused. He said he was in love with Lauren. Diane apologized for confronting Lauren at church. She said she had been pushed to her breaking point and did not know what else to do. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. If anything, I owed her a debt. She had opened my eyes to the truth that everyone else seemed determined to keep hidden. We talked for 2 hours. We shared evidence. We compared stories. And by the end of that conversation, we had formed an alliance. I went home and started planning. I met with Greg again, and we prepared the divorce papers. Our state recognized at-fault divorce, which meant that proof of adultery would significantly affect the division of assets. I carefully moved money from our joint accounts into a personal account, only taking what was legally mine to protect it from any claims she might make. I backed up every piece of evidence onto multiple hard drives and cloud storage accounts. Then I did something that gave me a sense of justice I had not felt in weeks. I compiled a detailed report about Lauren and Marcus's relationship and sent it to the Human Resources Department at their company. Their company had strict policies about workplace relationships. Employees were required to disclose any romantic involvement with coworkers. Lauren and Marcus had been hiding their affair for 2 years, which was a direct violation of company policy. And because Marcus was technically senior to Lauren, it also raised questions about favoritism and professional misconduct. I also wrote a long letter to Lauren's parents. They had always treated me like a son. Her father and I would watch football together every Thanksgiving. Her mother called me every week just to check in. They deserved to know the truth about the daughter they had raised. Then I picked a date, Friday evening. Lauren always came home around 6:30 on Fridays. I would be waiting for her. That Friday I left work early. I set the divorce papers on the kitchen table, along with printed copies of the photographs, the emails, and the investigator's report. Then I sat down and waited. Lauren walked through the door at 6:45, humming to herself. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "Stephen, what is going on? Why are you sitting in the dark?" I reached over and turned on the lamp. "Sit down, Lauren." She looked at the table and saw the stack of papers. Her face changed immediately. The color drained from her cheeks just like it had at church. "What is all this?" she whispered. "You know exactly what it is." She picked up the first photograph, her and Marcus kissing in his car. She dropped it like it had burned her fingers. "Stephen, I can explain. It is not what you think. This was a mistake. It did not mean anything." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A mistake 2 years, Lauren. 2 years of hotel rooms and secret emails and lying to my face every single day. That is not a mistake. That is a choice. Hundreds of choices every single day to betray me." She started crying. "Please, Stephen, I love you. I know I messed up, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. I will do anything." I slid another piece of paper toward her, the email where she called me the boring nice guy, the one where she wished Marcus was the father of her future children. "Do you remember writing this?" She read it and started sobbing harder. "I did not mean it. I was confused. Marcus manipulated me. He made me think things that were not true." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop. I have heard enough lies from you to last a lifetime. Here is what is going to happen. I have already filed for divorce. The papers are right there. Human Resources at your company received a full report this morning about your relationship with Marcus. And tomorrow morning, your parents are going to receive a letter explaining everything." Lauren's sobs turned into wails. "No, Stephen, please. You cannot do this. My parents will disown me. I will lose my job. Please." I stood up from the table. "You should have thought about that before you threw away our marriage. I am going to stay at a hotel tonight. When I come back tomorrow, I want you gone." I walked out the door without looking back. The fallout was swift and brutal. Both Lauren and Marcus were terminated from their positions within a week. The company cited violations of their workplace conduct policy, but everyone knew the real reason. Word spread quickly through their professional network. In an industry built on reputation and relationships, being known as the people who destroyed 2 marriages was a death sentence. Diane filed for divorce from Marcus the same week I filed mine. She got primary custody of their 2 children, and the judge ordered Marcus to pay substantial child support and alimony. Last I heard, he had to move into a small apartment on the other side of town and was struggling to find work in his field. Lauren's parents were devastated. Her father, the man who used to call me son, refused to speak to her. Her mother cried on the phone when I called to say goodbye. Lauren had to move back in with her mother because she could not afford rent without a job. Her entire carefully constructed life came crashing down around her. And Marcus and Lauren, their fairy tale romance lasted exactly 3 months after the truth came out. Without the thrill of secrecy, without the excitement of forbidden love, they discovered that what they had was not love at all. It was just lust and lies. They broke up after a fight about money, each blaming the other for ruining their lives. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Because of the evidence of infidelity, I received the majority of our assets. The house, which was in my name from before the marriage, remained mine. I sold it 2 months later. I could not stand being in a place with so many memories. The months following the divorce were the hardest of my life. I went through periods where I could not eat, could not sleep, could not focus on anything. Some days I would wake up and forget for a moment that my life had been destroyed. Then reality would come crashing back, and I would have to start all over again. My sister Carla came to stay with me for a few weeks. She did not try to fix me or give me advice. She just sat with me, made sure I ate, and reminded me that I was not alone. Her presence saved me during those dark days. I started seeing a therapist, something I never thought I would do. But talking to someone who was not emotionally invested in my situation helped me process what had happened. My therapist helped me understand that Lauren's choices were not a reflection of my worth as a person or a husband. She chose to lie and cheat because of something broken inside her, not because of anything I did or failed to do. Slowly, I started putting my life back together. I threw myself into my work, earning a promotion that I had been passed over for twice before. I started exercising again, running every morning before sunrise. There is something cleansing about running in the dark, watching the world wake up around you, feeling your body grow stronger with each passing day. I joined a support group for people who had been through infidelity. I was hesitant at first. Sitting in a circle talking about my feelings seemed like something from a bad movie. But being around others who understood exactly what I was going through made all the difference. I was not alone. I was not crazy. What happened to me had happened to many people, and they had survived. I could survive too. 6 months after the divorce, I woke up one morning and realized I did not feel angry anymore. The rage that had been burning in my chest for so long had finally gone out. I did not hate Lauren. I just felt sorry for her. Sorry for the life she threw away. Sorry for the person she turned out to be. But mostly I felt free. I sold the old house and bought a small apartment in the city closer to work. New space, new start, new life. A year after the divorce, I took my first solo vacation. I went to the coast, rented a cabin by the ocean, and spent a week doing nothing but reading, hiking, and watching the waves. On my last night there, I sat on the beach as the sun set over the water. I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Peace. Here is what I learned from all of this. When someone betrays you, when they take your trust and throw it away like it means nothing, you have a choice. You can let the anger consume you. You can become bitter and resentful and carry that poison with you for the rest of your life. Or you can choose to move forward. Not forget, never forget, but move forward. The best revenge is not destroying the person who hurt you. It is building a life so good that they become nothing more than a distant memory. It is proving to yourself that you are stronger than the worst thing that ever happened to you. Lauren made her choices, and she has to live with the consequences. But I refuse to let her choices define the rest of my life. I have started dating again slowly and carefully. I met someone a few months ago, a woman named Sarah, who works at a bookstore near my apartment. We are taking things slow, getting to know each other without any pressure or expectations. She knows about my past, and she does not judge me for it. For the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually blessings in disguise. They force us to confront truths we have been avoiding. They strip away the illusions and show us who people really are. And sometimes they push us towards something better than we ever could have imagined. If you are going through something similar right now, if you have just discovered that someone you loved has been lying to you, I want you to know that it gets better. It does not feel like it now. Right now it probably feels like your world is ending. But you are stronger than you know. And on the other side of this pain, there is a new life waiting for you. You just have to be brave enough to walk through the storm. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved in order to save yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing right now. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss any of our future stories about life, love, and the strength it takes to start over. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being part of this community. Remember, no matter what you are going through, you are never alone. And sometimes the end of one chapter is just the beginning of something beautiful. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.